When the building was first opened, this area was used by the local farmers to trade corn. Although it was a nice open space, the light levels were deemed to be poor for this activity. In fact, some of the traders moved outside so their products could be seen in a better light. The complaints for poor lighting went on for a number of years and were partly addressed by removing some interior walls. Eventually, in 1857, a new venue was provided for trading corn. This building appeared on the other side of Tyndall Square and was known as the Corn Exchange. In 1936, the hall was given a major Art Deco refurbishment, and as part of this, a number of the pillars were removed. This picture, taken in February 1936, shows the vestibules before this work took place. On each side of the staircase, we see the entrances to the main courtrooms. Before we go upstairs, I would just like to bring your attention to this stone statue of a lady, a water nymph, known as the Naiad. The statue was made by John Baker. She was made of Code stone and designed by John Johnson. The purpose of the Naiad was to provide a centrepiece to a freshwater fountain which once stood in the middle of Tyndall Square. It was designed to be a decorative embellishment over the town's public water supply, and the water spouted from dolphins' mouths at the Naiad's feet. This watercourse was first laid by the Black Friars back in the 13th century and took water from a spring which was situated in Coval Wells. The water was transported in a pipeline made from hollowed out elm trees. The staircase that we see today was designed and built during the Art Deco refurbishment in the mid-1930s and is now regarded as a special feature of the building. On the 22nd of February 1856, the Shire Hall was the scene of a tragedy. A large crowd thronged into the Shire Hall to view the controversial trial of 5 men charged with murder committed while poaching. Because of the public interest, the court was being held upstairs in the assembly room. People pushed and shoved to try and get into the court. Such was the rush on the 3rd flight of stairs that the stair balustrades gave way, and then the stone stairs themselves broke away from the wall. People and masonry tumbled down onto the flight of steps below. There were casualties. When the area was finally cleared, a body of an 18-year-old youth was found. 4 others were also seriously injured, and many others suffered minor injuries. As the stairs were then destroyed, the court, witnesses and prisoners had to make their way out of the building via a window onto the roof of a nearby property and then down a ladder. The whole story is part of an article published in the Essex Standard on the 27th of February 1856. At the top of the staircase we find the ballroom, originally known as the county room. In 3 of the corners there are alcoves, each containing a statuette. These are the Vestal Virgins designed by John Bacon and would have been in place when the building was first opened. You will notice on each statuette that one arm is raised. This was originally designed as a support for a candelabra which would have illuminated each alcove. 2 other artworks in this magnificent room are the chimney pieces at either end. These are panels carved by John Charles Rossi. Made in the late 1700s, they depict characters from Greek mythology. Once there was an annual feast of florists that took place at Saracen's Head, but as soon as Shire Hall was opened in 1791, this then moved to the new venue, as well as many balls that took place soon after that date. In 1814, To celebrate the supposed defeat of Napoleon by Wellington, a ball was held in the Shire Hall, which was attended by a wide variety of local people. It started early evening, and at 1 a.m. around 300 people sat down to a fine supper. After supper, they danced until dawn to music played by the band of the Surrey Regiment. The celebrations were a bit premature, as Napoleon, as we now know, was finally defeated at Waterloo in June 1815. There was a celebration with a private dinner for local gentry in the county room for the coronation of King George IV in July 1821. A public banquet was laid out down the High Street for all to take part. This was followed by a firework display and an illumination of the town by candle and gaslight. A large picture has been painted of this event and can be seen in the Essex Record Office. In 1837 there was the opening of St John's Church in Molsham Street, and 350 fine ladies and gentlemen attended this event and sat down in the county room to a cold luncheon prepared by Mr Bacon of the Great Black Boy Inn and Mr Lake of the Saracen's Head Hotel. The scene was described at the time as highly exhilarating and delightful. They were later joined by the Bishop and Lady Mildmay. Strangely, it seems that not many of the ordinary residents of Molsham Street were present at this celebration. In 1891, the sash windows on the first floor were reglazed with plate glass, and in the following year further office accommodation was obtained by lowering the ceiling of the county room. In November 1900, an exhibition of Essex manufacturers took place in Shire Hall, and the Marconi Company took part. Mr Marconi, being the showman, hired the ballroom and installed working, receiving and transmitting radio equipment in the room. During the exhibition, assistants in white coats were seen sending and receiving wireless messages across the room. The visitors could witness at first hand this intensely interesting new invention in action. This is a unique piece of structure that was built for Shire Hall, which allowed people that were really quite bad criminals to come up from the cells and come into the court without even going through any part of the building. This is so unique that it has been actually documented and recorded by English Heritage, and it is one of the features that makes this building so unique. The whole court here was refurbished in 1936, and they added the padded seats that are in here and in the rest of the building, in this room. The clock was added and also some more lighting. But the rest of the room is as it was when it was first built in 1790. The first courts were held in the Shire Hall on the 12th of July 1791. Over time, meetings were held in the courts to debate various issues such as church rates, the impact of the poor law on the town, and as a consequence the transfer of ownership of land to build some of the new schools. In January 1849, following a number of local outbreaks of cholera, the local Board of Health convened a meeting in the grand jury room. The inspector was one Edward Creasley, and they discussed the town's sewerage, drainage and water supply conditions. This meeting was the start of a massive sewer building programme which, under James Fenton, made a significant difference to the cleanliness of the town. The local Board of Health was the forerunner to what later became the Borough Council and then the City Council. The first elections of this board took place in 1850, when new members were elected by the townspeople for the first time. The count took place in Shire Hall. In 1874, the hall was the place where the new market was instigated. At the meeting of the Board of Health, it was debated either to lease or to buy the site of the market, then behind the Corn Exchange, and the decision was for full ownership. The new road from Tyndall Square was then called Market Road.
The family courtroom, however, remains very much as when it was last used over a decade ago. The wood panelling is in excellent condition, and just below the clock would have been where the judges would have sat. Likewise, the dock, with its polished woodwork, still stands proudly in place.
So this is one of the cells where the accused would have spent time before they went into court. And you can see it's not a very big room, and it's got a very minimal light. And this would happen to be a seating bench, and maybe if the accused wanted to lie down, he could. But as you can see, there's no padding there. The other interesting thing about this particular room is that on the wall here is a button which says press to call. So if the accused was feeling pretty lonely or he wanted to talk to someone, this would be the way that they would communicate. And as you can see, this is a really quite substantial door, and this would have been another cell where the accused would have actually occupied. However, this one is different because what we have here is two windows. So the accused would have stood on the bench or sat on the bench, and he could have then talked to his solicitors or his visitors, who would have been securely on the other side of the wall. Now, it's interesting that I've been round the back there, and there is no way that those visitors could have got into this particular part of the building. So it's completely separate, and it would have meant that they would have been completely safe from the accused on this side of the bench. And now we are in the tunnel. This is the tunnel. Above our heads is New Street. And this wall here would have once led to the police station on the far side of New Street. And the accused would have been brought from the cells there, through this tunnel, up those stairs and into the cells. It was a secure way of transferring the prisoners so that there was no way that they could escape. And it meant that all sorts of variety of prisoners could be then put to court in a secure way without the prospect of them escaping. Now, this is a really lovely piece of architecture with these great big walls that are actually polished brick. This is tiles and ceramic, and you can see, even though this has been erected for a long while, it's still in a remarkable condition. And it just shows you that if you build something like this, it can last for a long time. Now, that wall, as we know, we can see is a lot younger, but beyond there is a set of cells with a black and white squared floor and proper storage for prisoners. When in later years the police station was getting full, maybe on a Saturday night, and there were too many people to actually be stored in the cells, they would have then brought them into this building under this tunnel, and they would have then used the facilities that are on this side. So that would have doubled, maybe tripled the amount of capacity they had for keeping people in overnight.